Oh, good job. I was trying to figure out how to do the recording and I must have clicked it on accident. Welcome, everyone. Excited to do the call. We missed everyone last week and I just always look forward to these. So thank you for joining. We are talking about habits today, really, and hitting our goals and staying compliant towards our goals and why sometimes that might be harder and sometimes some strategies for making that easier. So we're going to just talk through that. And then also I'm just going to check if we have any questions too. We'll answer those at the end as well. So 1 second. Yes. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Summertime. So goal setting. I think this is something everyone experiences when you set out to achieve a goal. Some goals that we set out to achieve, getting there might feel really easy, right? And not necessarily easy, but it's like the process to get to that goal was just aligned. And some goals that we set are very hard and we find ourselves spinning our wheels over and over again and can't figure out why we can't stay compliant with the habits or the training or the nutrition or whatever it is that we set up to reach X, Y, and Z goal. And so I think a lot of times we can get into that same cycle and then be so extreme and then kind of go back and forth of like extreme, fail, shame, extreme, fail, shame, instead of just reevaluating and assessing and potentially just restructuring the plan, right? And I think sometimes the the difference maker there can be if we really truly believe that we can achieve that goal, or if we don't believe we can achieve that goal. And I think if you really truly believe you can achieve that goal and your goal comes from a place of meaning, it comes from a place of meaning and like depth for you, you've thought about it and asked yourself why that goal is important to you, then I lost my train of thought. Sorry with that. What I was going to say, then when you fail, or maybe something doesn't go how you planned, it's not like you don't have the shame that follows. It's more just an expected roadblock. How can I have a new strategy and work through this and move forward towards my goal, right? And so I think really making sure that you have thought through your why and why that goal is important to you is going to be a big piece of that. So talking through on the just troubleshooting and what that looks like. Do you guys have this pulled up, coaches, on your end? Do you mind just talking through the very first part for me? I'll answer a question.
I don't have it pulled up, you guys.
Okay, I got it. So,
okay.
So if you aren't able to, if you're finding that you're hitting roadblocks and you're struggling to be compliant towards a goal, I think number one, reflect and reassess. So taking a step back and reflecting on your current plan. Like what is my nutrition plan? What is my workout plan? What am I wanting to incorporate X, Y, and Z? And then beyond that, let's say, for example, you have decided, maybe you and your coach or you on your own through your own research, let's say you have a fat loss goal, right? And you have decided, okay, I need to be at 2,000 calories a day. I want to hit 150 grams of protein a day. And my plan is to lift for 30 minutes, 4 days a week and hit 10,000 steps a day. Let's just say that's the plan. Okay, that's a great plan. That's a great starting point. But then beyond that, have you thought through how you're going to do that? How are you going to integrate that? So assessing if that plan aligns with your goals. Yes, the plan should align with your goals, right? But then does it also align with your preferences and your lifestyle? So is it possible for you to log your food and make sure you are getting adequate protein and you are staying within the calorie goal? How are you going to do that, right? There's a number of different ways that you could do that. You could log your food intake as you go throughout the day. That's going to be a little bit harder, right? To hit those numbers just kind of on the fly. Or you could pre-log your food for the day and make a plan. That's going to be really helpful because you're going to be able to think through what you have going that day, what your plan is. You can even take it a step further and like think through the week with what events you have and plan out your nutrition accordingly. Or if logging your food isn't something you want to do, you could log like a couple days on MyFitnessPal, so you have a template, and then you could eat those things, they're very similar to those things, throughout the week, and know that you're hitting your goals without having to get on your phone and log. So there's a number of different ways to hit that protein and calorie intake, a number of different ways to achieve that, whether you're logging your food or you want it to be more of like a kind of a planned out meal structured system that way. And then on the workout plan, right? Okay, lifting 30 minutes, 4 days a week, that sounds easy. But then maybe you throw in all of your mom duties that you have to drive people to and from. Maybe you have work, maybe you have events, maybe your husband needs you for something, or your friend needs you for something, or, you have whatever it is. The week can fill up very quickly. And those 4 workouts can easily get pushed to the last thing in the day when you're exhausted and then not do them, right? So scheduling those workouts in your week, what day makes the most sense to do those? What time of day is my motivation going to be the highest to do those? Maybe you dread lower body days. And so, if it's after 12 p.m., like the likelihood of you getting in that lower body session is 0. So don't schedule it after 12 p.m. Can you get up maybe 20 minutes earlier and do it first thing in the day when your motivation is higher? So just thinking through and just knowing that we all have preferences, and that's okay. Designing your plan as if you're a robot is not going to bring you success. Designing your plan knowing like, what is hard for me? What are challenges? What are common roadblocks? That is how you integrate new habits and be able to stay compliant with them and be successful there. So asking yourself that, is this plan realistic? Like, probably doing 5 days a week for 90 minutes training, and then you're going to also add in 10,000 steps, and then you're also getting your cardio in, right? That people do that all the time. There's a lot of programs that are very extreme. And I think that there can be a benefit on the motivation side. Like if you have this extreme plan, it feels very exciting at first, but it's hard to maintain long-term because it's not sustainable. So thinking through, is this going to be sustainable for me? And is it realistic? Can I maintain this for more than a few months or a few weeks or a few days? And if you can't, then it's time to adjust. Anything that you guys would add on that, on just reflection?
I'm thinking just doing something that, as you're mentioning, are realistic to start, so that if it's really, really difficult for you, or if it's like taking a lot of your mental energy to get it done, like then it's probably not, the best starting point, because always when we all work with clients, we also want to be able to build. So we want to kind of find a baseline that you could probably do forever. And then when you have a specific goal, for example, when we're going into a deficit from more maintaining, or you suddenly now, or not suddenly perhaps, but you want to build muscle, or we want to be able to adjust so that we can add an extra day of training, or add a little bit more time going heavier. Maybe we want to add in more steps so that we're also getting low impact movement. So starting off like from a baseline that is very realistic or a long period of time, and then being able to build from that, that's more likely for you to be able to see good results and have consistent results when we go from there, instead of going in with this like, yes, I can do this, and then it's just a lot.
Yeah, and I think being willing to, like, that experience, that getting that baseline of, just of like non-negotiables is what allows you to build off of that. And then when you build off of that and you've experienced building, okay, today's a busy day. What can I scale back down to and still like check that box off, right? So maybe you want to do regular cardio, and ideally you'd love to go on 4 runs a week. But you have a lot on your plate, and maybe that's not realistic this current week. So instead it could be, all right, I'm just going to focus on getting 10,000 steps a day, or I'm just going to focus on 4 cardio sessions. Maybe they're not an hour. Maybe it's just, I'm doing something for 15 minutes or whatever it is, where I'm getting my heart rate up a little bit. And so for me, ideally, it's like, okay, I wanted to go on a 45-minute run. I don't have time. It's so super hot out. The kids are home. That might be hard to leave. All right, I could do it on my treadmill. Or, okay, I could just do intervals for 30 minutes, or all right, I could just go outside and do like a 10-minute burpee EMOM outside. I mean, there's just so many ways to scale that down and still feel like maybe that wasn't 100% of what I wanted to do today, but 20% or 15% is certainly moving the needle further along than doing nothing, right? So how can you scale that down and still recognize the effort and that you're moving the needle towards your goal, whether it's not, maybe what you wanted, you're still able to do something. And so that experience will help you be able to scale up or down based on your life and what's going on and your energy and all of those things. And then I would say the next thing would be setting realistic expectations. So are your expectations realistic and attainable? Like I wouldn't sign up for a marathon in 3 months and hope to qualify for Boston, right? That's not something is realistic for me. Maybe I could set that goal over a long period of time and I'd have a training plan and then I'd have checkpoints along the way to see if it's realistic. I'd probably just set a smaller goal initially, like I'm going to run a half marathon or I'm going to run a marathon. And maybe as I'm training 3 months in, give myself like a time that I want to run it under that's realistic. And so making sure your goals and expectations are realistic and attainable. Same thing goes for, I want to lose 30 pounds by my vacation. Okay, is that realistic? How many pounds a week would that mean you are losing? And is that more than a pound a week? Or even kind of, if that's consistently a pound a week, that's going to be 50 weeks, right? And your vacation's in 6 months, that doesn't make sense. So thinking that through, and then also knowing 30 pounds, I was thinking 50 pounds, but 30 pounds, you might not be able to lose 30 pounds in 30 weeks, right? You might need to lose 15 pounds and then take time off and then lose another 10 and then take time off and then lose 5. So just really thinking that through realistically. And that is where having a strategy call or working with a coach could be very helpful. Having a sounding board when you're setting your goals, to just know like what is realistic for me. And then because like when you're really overly ambitious with your goals, it can just lead to frustration and then also just a lack of adherence, really. And like I said with the marathon, so breaking your larger goals into smaller goals. So whatever your goal is, let's say it is losing 30 pounds, how can you break that into smaller goals? How about breaking that into, okay, this month I want to lose 4 pounds. Okay, this week I would like to lose 1 pound. All right, what is that going to take to lose 1 pound this week? I need to create a deficit. And then I also need to recognize that might be half pound to a pound. So where am I satisfied? Like instead of having one number, like let's make it a range. And then recognizing what needs to happen each day or even at each quarter of the day to continue working towards that goal. Breaking it down as granular as you can is going to help a lot with motivation, because then you're checking off, all right, I need to hit my calories on today and my protein and get in my movement. All right, so then you're checking off, did I do that this morning? Did I do that this afternoon? And just finding small ways to continuously stay motivated, working one day at a time, one meal at a time. And
I think another piece of that would be like learning how to appreciate and fall in love with the process rather than just the end goal.
Absolutely.
Like figuring out, like when I get outside and get morning sunlight every day, I feel more energized. So that would be one of the habits that's kind of like part of the process, and picking up on those like little tiny tweaks and like daily improvements. Yes, altogether they're working towards weight loss down the road, but like I love getting my morning sunshine, or I love getting my steps, or like finding the value there and just figuring out how to acknowledge the gains from the process and really love the process itself.
Yeah, and I think that falls on just finding ways to be intrinsically motivated, right? I was just talking to this with a friend this morning about like paying my kids, or like just growing up. My mom never paid us for goals in a soccer game, or like never paid us for grades. And it was really, really important to her that we were like working hard in class the A is the reward. Like that is the thing that you're excited about. That's the reward, and feeling confident on my assignments and all of those things. So her paying me almost just takes away that reward, right? And same with soccer. Like the goal is to win the game, to support your team, to do your best. So her paying me to play kind of just takes away from those natural rewards. And so thinking through with yourself, like okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. Why do I want to lose 30 pounds? Maybe it is a health related thing. Like, okay, I'm going to feel so much better. My long-term health, my blood work is going to look better. My internal health is going to improve. My insulin sensitivity is going to improve. Lots of things health-wise are going to be benefited, likely, maybe from weight loss, right? And then some of that might be aesthetic. Like I'm just going to feel more confident in my skin. When I'm going to certain things, my clothes fit me in a way that I prefer, right? Because that doesn't mean 30 pounds heavier, doesn't necessarily mean less or more attractive, right? But just figuring out there's likely an aesthetic piece to that. That's not bad. Okay. Just thinking that through. And then, but then like, what else? Like asking yourself, getting down, just what would that weight loss do for you? Because if it's just, I want to lose 30 pounds, it's going to be hard to stay motivated. So thinking through deeper and deeper, why, and at what point also will you be satisfied? And also recognizing if there is an aesthetic component, it's probably not going to be fixed 30 pounds later, right? So just trying to think deeper beyond that. And then like Griffin said, the process, like really probably 30 pounds, that 30 pounds represents like the healthiest version of yourself that feels full of energy and feels good in all scenarios and can do whatever it is, whether it's playing a game or carrying groceries in or, and so thinking deeper there, because then every habit that's working towards, like you said, that weight loss is also working to support you being the healthiest version of yourself. And that feels so good. And so adding in those vegetables, like I feel satisfied. I feel my energy levels feel more stable throughout the day. I'm not thinking about food as much. At getting in that morning cardio makes me feel alive. I'm noticing like an increase in my mood and energy throughout the day. And just thinking through like, what is the natural reward to that habit for you? Because that does help so much with motivation if you fall in love with the process. I think that's a great piece. And then the day to day is just more rewarding. Like every day is rewarding as you're doing those things.
I think for a lot of people, it's also about like taking care of themselves and just giving that self-care and not just giving that to everyone else around them. I think like, it's very meaningful, like to start setting boundaries towards other people and not being afraid of people not being there because you're not giving, your everything, because you can still give a lot to other people and also give to yourself. That is something that I feel comes up a lot with clients, that like the boundary setting towards others is a struggle, and that can take time. Take time to be able to be comfortable with giving to oneself instead of just giving to others. And that's also like something I think we have to be aware of, that that's you stepping outside of a comfort zone, and it's going to take you some time to be. And when you are stepping outside your comfort zone, you're using more energy than if you're not. So that can be a part of the journey, and just also taking in consideration that maybe this change is going to take more energy from you, and that's okay, but we also have to respect that it is.
Yeah, I think that's something that you're constantly working on as life changes and demands change, right? I know I personally, I've been health and wellness and fitness has been a part of my life. It's a part of my husband's life. It's important to both of us. And it has been since we got married, right? It's something it's always been important. And so I haven't had to prove that to him, but we both work and we both take care of our kids. And so sometimes it's hard to juggle that. And I have found with summer, like me getting up early and getting in movement and having that time to myself before the kids wake up is crucial for me. Or once the day starts, I'm driving them around, I'm working, I'm doing a lot of things. It's really easy for my needs to get put to the back burner. And so we went through that on our end, even just this summer. We've been married for 15 years. He was frustrated that I was getting up early and like leaving, and then he's handling the breakfast routine as I'm coming home. And he's like, why don't you just go to the gym later in the day? And I had to lay it out like, okay, if I go to the gym later, then that means you can't do things. And then you're going to go to the gym even later. And that's going to really just take up our whole day. So instead, I'm getting up and go to the gym before everyone else is doing stuff. And I'm happy. Then I can be full time on the kids during the day. You have the flexibility to go to things as you need for work. And I had to lay it out and be kind of firm with my boundaries there. And he was able to see, oh, I was actually making a sacrifice for the family by getting that done in the morning. So the whole day didn't have to revolve around it. And so I think sometimes it would have been easy. It would have been kind of easy and almost in my nature to just be like, okay, you're right. I'll just stay home and I'll figure out another time to fit my workout in throughout the day and have it be more random. But that wouldn't have felt good to me. And I would have been pouring from an empty cup for my family through this summer. And so I think just remembering that sometimes you do have to like explain why that thing is important to you and set a boundary and be okay with maybe it not being optimal for everyone else, but you're taking care of yourself and then you can be there for everyone else. Henrietta's a very good example at that. And like always kind of, I think just does such a good job at pointing that out. And so it's something that I think you are always working on in life and seeing what boundaries you need to set. Like, is it a boundary that you need to set with someone in order to do whatever the thing is or not? But oftentimes it is like maybe your family expects you to be home because they're used to you being home. So then if you're now adding a workout in, that's a change and that's okay. But it might be something you need to talk through and explain so that you can get support. And I think that's big too. I think that's
Michaela.
one. Yeah.
Michaela, I think it's important to remember too, we work on habits to create change. So we're also working on habits to create change because we're trying to break old habits that aren't applicable to our goals anymore. So, I mean, just doing what I do in my gym, breaking old habits is so important. And it's important to layer on top new habits to get through the old habits. And that's really the goal, is creating change, creating a culture of change. By just paying attention to a few things will create that change. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think
consistent with it too.
Yeah, and I think remembering like it's hard to change.
Yeah.
Like we are going to resist change, and the people in our lives are going to resist change. And so remembering that as you're incorporating a new habit, that like I'm going to resist this change, even if I want this change. And my people are going to resist this change because that's a change for their lives too, especially if you're a mom, right? Or a spouse. And just knowing that's going to come. It's going to come with some roadblocks there. And I love that. Like,
and a lot of people aren't going to like your change. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't going to like how you're changing. And it becomes down to you and being consistent with it. And people will adapt to that change, just like you said, Craig's adapting. So it's
and
just something that you have to look at.
And your why has to be important enough that you can push through that discomfort with yourself and with others. And so I think another thing too is seeking accountability and support, like on the other side of that, like setting boundaries and then also bringing yourself support. So whether that's an accountability partner, such as a friend, or having a family member, or hiring a coach, someone that can help you and support you so that you can continue to stay motivated and stay consistent, joining a support group and maybe an online community, like in the app, lots of like-minded people working towards goals, right? And just having an accountability partner. If you don't have anyone local to you, you could definitely ask on the app, like, who wants to be my accountability partner? Here's what I'm working on for my goals and my habits. I guarantee there would be more than one person that would want to do that on the Hungry Fitness community as well. So that's a great idea too. And then I think identifying barriers, identifying obstacles when you don't hit your plan, so important to just take time to reflect, like, what didn't go well today? Why? What came up? Okay, I realized when I have meetings back to back, I actually don't have time to eat or prep food. So what can I do next week on Wednesday when I have meetings all day? Maybe I can prep a meal for dinner and I make sure I have a buffer time between my third and fourth meeting. So I have time to like sit down and eat a meal. Because I notice I feel way better and the rest of the day goes better if I eat lunch. Who knew? So just like thinking things through and not feeling shame, using it as an opportunity to re-strategize so that the next time that same thing comes up, you can feel more prepared. And then I think lastly, if you're struggling to stick to a plan, maybe it's time for a change. That's part of the reason why I change up programming every 6 weeks on the Hungry Fitness subscription. It's not that you need a new stimulus every 6 weeks to see results. It's because a lot of times mentally that change gives you just enough of a new like novelty and excitement that your motivation continues in the next 6 weeks, right? And so finding little ways to change things up so that you feel excited. I make changes kind of with each season, really. Like in the summertime, I'm doing a lot more cardio. I want to get outside a lot more and take advantage of that. In the wintertime, I might add another lifting day because I am okay with being in the gym more. So just figuring out, am I bored? What could I change? Could I add something in or switch something out? And I think that helps a lot too. Same with foods. Eating the same foods, maybe try some new fruits and veggies, try a new recipe, without doing it every day, like adding it in a way that feels realistic. And then lastly, habit stacking. So someone asked, after developing basic habits and being consistent, what to start working towards, like biohack, whatever, with habits. And I think habit stacking is so helpful when you're trying to incorporate new habits because it takes the decision making out of the equation. And the people that are the most successful with staying compliant and hitting goals are the ones that have to make the fewest decisions in the day. I truly believe that. And so whatever we can put on autopilot for ourselves towards our own health and longevity is going to be so, so helpful. I am going to just paste some of these in here so you guys can read them. And then we can kind of talk through them quickly. Some we came up with, and then some of the team ones that we all do. So I'll talk through some of the team ones, or we can kind of talk through some of ours. So my morning is very much the same. Like I wake up, I go to my bathroom, I wash my face, I get dressed for whatever I'm doing. Usually it's cardio these days. I like to get it done early before it gets too hot. And then I go out in my kitchen and while I'm making my athletic greens, I turn on my tea kettle for my Berg Energy. Those are like my 2 drinks I have in the morning. And then I drink my supplements with my athletic greens. So I know I'm getting about 20 ounces of water. I'm getting my supplements in. And then I drink my Perk Energy and I add my creatine to that. And I have a protein muffin. So for me, that all supports my morning. And then the day starts after that, really. That's like my non-negotiable habit stack where I get my creatine in, I get my supplements in, I get my greens in, and I get some protein in. Those 4 things I accomplish just within the first 15, 20 minutes of my day that help me really feel my best. And I know Casey jumped off, but she always puts her supplements by her toothbrush because she knows she's going to brush her teeth. Supplements are sometimes harder to remember. So if she just puts those by her toothbrush, she's guaranteed to take those every time as needed, like, morning and night when she's brushing her teeth. Any other ones? Jess and Henrietta, do you guys want to talk through some of yours?
I was thinking just because, I have my magnesium glycinate in my bathroom. So I also take that last thing before I go to bed. So what I'll do then is I'll take it. I have my water bottle with me. That's with me everywhere I go, but take it with me, drink, and then I fill my water bottle up completely, have it in the bathroom or by my nightstand so that the next morning I have my water bottle already filled up because one of my non-negotiables is drinking at least 20 ounces of water before I have my cup of coffee. So then that's kind of already set to go, like from the magnesium at night till my next morning, drink my 20 ounces. And depending on when I'm having my coffee, either I sip it or I will just pour it down, like have my coffee with my creatine in it. And this is while just making kids ready, not in the summer, of course, but otherwise like normal. So that's kind of my last thing I do and the first thing I do. I feel like that's kind of a habit stacking, like from night to morning.
Yeah, I love that. And then
Yeah.
Jen, what about your morning? You were talking about some of yours.
Yeah, so my morning is been the same for a while, but obviously, kids are out of school, so I have to get up a little bit earlier as well. But I still try to do my cold exposure in the shower first thing because that really helps me. I still meditate, try to really get that meditation in after that. And then, as well as Michaela, I like to get my cardio, which is now running, training out of the way early in the morning before it gets crazy hot because I'm in Florida, so it's disgusting. So those are the things that I try to keep up with in the morning, those core things, and taking my greens as well. All of those things are kind of like habit first thing, just checklist.
One to the next one. When you finish one, you start the next and start
Yeah.
the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jess, what about you? Any habit stacking that you feel like has really been helpful for you in just maybe habits that are harder for you to do?
Yeah, when I started doing breath work consistently, I knew I needed to pair it with something else that I was consistent with, because now I crave it, but it was really hard to slow down for me. And so I started pairing that with my movement for the day. So whether that was a training day to help just warm up core, because breath is going to help to warm up our core as just a foundational thing. So it's helpful in a couple ways, and it made me just mindful of doing it because I was already going to be moving my body, and something that had already become a non-negotiable for me. So if I'm not doing a training day, I'll just still pair it either at the front or back end of, if I go for a walk or stretch or yoga or do an active type recovery. And that's been really helpful in being consistent nearly daily to do something that initially was like really hard for me to slow down to do.
And you're going to do your movement. So I think that's great. Yeah. And one thing I was going to say too, like with nutrition, I'm not great at just like meal prepping for the whole week, but when I make dinner, which is a few nights a week, at least, that we're not eating leftovers or going out, I always make a large amount of food so that I can just portion that in to what I need for the next day. I already have my food scale out. Usually I'm logging my dinner. So then I'll just get out a few Tupperwares and I'll just fill up, 4 ounces of meat from the dinner, half cup of rice, and just have it all be the same. And so I know lunch is set for the next couple of days and I don't have to think about that the next day. And it's really easy to do it versus making it a whole event in and of itself. Like, am I making dinner? Yes. Okay. I'm going to make sure there's enough to prep the next couple of lunches for the week. What about you, Griffin? We'll finish.
I have like a recovery stack that I definitely don't hit every day. Maybe it's more like a once a week kind of thing, but I'll do a version of some of them hopefully every day. So like my perfect world morning, if maybe I'm not doing daycare drop off, I will wake up and have usually a pre-workout first thing in the morning, just like a little bit of caffeine and a tiny bit of protein. First thing, I stretch outside. As I warm up, I do a workout, which is lovely after my stretch. And then in terms of recovery, I am fortunate enough to have put a little barrel sauna in my side yard. So I'll go turn on the sauna while after my workout, I take a cool down walk. So I'm outside getting steps and sunshine, then heat exposure, and then straight in the shower to some cold to clean my body after all of that grossness, and then ending with cold exposure. So like I said, it's definitely a splurge morning, and it's definitely like a recovery thing that I get in maybe once a week, but it is spectacular and I love it. And they do all go like bang, 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 bang. So I get so much self-care. I get so much self-care in first thing in the morning, and then I'm in a great mood and I can accomplish the day. Other days it might be like stretch outside and work out. And then that's all. Like that's probably mostly it, which is great.
Yeah.
So it'll be different versions, but yes, it's nice to have it like no decision making, just go, and it's a great start.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'll send this list on the Slack or on the app for everyone to kind of look through, and I would love to hear what everyone else's habit stacks are, because I think, and then thinking through like, okay, what habit am I trying to incorporate into my day? where could I stack that in? What's something I'm already doing that I could just add that into so I don't even have to think about that habit? It can start to just be an autopilot habit for me. So thank you guys so much for joining, and hope you have a great week, and we will discuss next week. And Autumn didn't do hers. So Autumn, you'll have to share some of your meal prep stuff on the app as well, because she has some really good ones that she does around meal prep. So, okay, thanks everyone. Have a great Wednesday. Thanks for joining.